I've got 3 roles for you. They correspond to 3 random questions, and we will see what you get to start.
Okay.
What is your absolute favorite part of the acting process? Putting your costume on for the first time, rehearsing, anything like that. But then what's not necessarily your least favorite, but a part of the process where you see room to grow for yourself and you're excited to tackle that?
I think my favorite part of the acting process is being either on set or on stage. Like the living inside a character's skin and getting to experience their life and their emotions and all of that is, I think, why I'm addicted to it in a way. I get to like not be myself for periods of time. And I think my least favorite part of the acting process is the waiting. And whether that's like waiting for something that you shot to come out or waiting for the next job, the in-betweens. That's the hardest, I think, part of this industry.
What is the most memorable rap gift you've ever received or given?
I made sweatshirts for Vida when we wrapped season 3, and I had them like, it was a picture of the bar on the outside of the bar with the neon sign, but I had my sister's friend is a really good graphic designer, and she like added some quotes on there that like were very representative of our time on the show, and I gave them out to the cast and you know the producers and all of that, and I still wear that, and we all still wear it. I like to give rap gifts that I know people will use. I think it's important because there's so many like cool merch things that I just like keep in a drawer, but when you get something that's very wearable and usable, I like that. So I try to think about that when I give rap gifts.
You're working on Scream 6 and suddenly there's a zombie outbreak. You can pick 2 co-stars to team up with. Who do you pick that gives yourself the best chance of surviving?
Definitely Jasmin, because I feel like she's both like physically fit, but she's also really smart. And I guess probably Mason can throw good punches. And he's like such a good loyal friend that he would probably sacrifice himself for us. So I think that would be my team.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back for a brand new edition of Collider Ladies Night with a returning guest from, I feel very confident in saying this right now, for a movie that is going to wind up being one of my absolute favorite films of 2023. Melissa Barrera is here. Huge congratulations on Scream 6.
Thank you so much. So great to see you again.
What would you say is the biggest difference between, your filmmaking and storytelling goals now compared to when we last spoke for Ladies Night in January of 2022?
I feel like in the last year, I did have a big perspective shift. So from when Scream came out to like Scream, 2022 in January, then I didn't work until we started shooting Scream in June. So I was like busy, I was doing stuff and I was traveling back and forth and I was doing promo and I went to Europe and visited my sister. So I was moving, but it wasn't working. And there's a part of me that gets really sad when I'm not working. So it was a hard half of the year for me. And I was so desperate to work. And then I did Scream and then I did the collaboration. And then I just wrapped this other indie movie that I did called Your Monster that it hasn't even been announced yet, but I'm giving you the scoop. But it's this incredible indie movie that was so satisfying to me. And I've realized how smaller films are more creatively satisfying in a way because you get a lot more say and it becomes it's like a real team effort. It's basically everyone is kind of sacrificing a lot to do this very low budget thing and make it look good and make it the best that it can be and having the highest hopes for something. knowing that you don't have like the huge back of like a studio. I think it like makes you hungrier. And I think in the last year, I had a mentality of like, I need to do something big to make a splash and to like make a name for myself so that I can greenlight projects, because it's like a thing in this industry where you're never a big enough name. Unless you're like one of like the top, 10 famous people in the world, you're never big enough. And it's like, really? Like, what else do I have to do? But then I was like, when I did like collaboration and Your Monster that are smaller films, it was so wonderful and it was so cathartic, and I felt like I did the best work that I've ever done. And I was like, this is actually what I want to do. Like, I just want to do projects that like speak to my soul and that stretch me. And it doesn't matter what size they are, because I'm meeting like incredibly talented creatives that are like up and coming and that I know are going to be huge. And I get to like be with them when they start out. And I think I don't know, like I want to do that now. I'm like focused on that. I'm like finding like smaller movies that have roles that are really challenging for me, and keep doing what I've been doing so far, which I think is doing like very different kinds of roles all the time. Not letting anyone put me in a box, just constantly, surprising people with the kinds of things I do.
You are welcome in the horror box anytime you want to exist in it, though. So stay in that box maybe a little more often than other genres. My head is exploding with follow-up questions. One thing that crossed my mind as you were explaining all that is it's a question that I ask quite often, because this industry loves to look at a film and say that's someone's breakout project. And from our limited perspective, we think a certain something happens when someone breaks out. But for the person experiencing it, it's completely different. And, the title that comes to mind for you is In the Heights, but feel free to swap in any other title that's more applicable here. What would you say is a misconception about breaking out in Hollywood? But then on the other hand, what is something that actually did change for the better when you had your big break?
I don't know. I mean, it's such a weird and like good question, because I have no idea what a big break means. Because I think like every time that I do something, someone writes that it's my breakout role. And I'm like, when am I going to stop having breakout roles? Like, when am I actually going to be broken out? Like when am I going to stop breaking out? Because people are just like, the breakout star of In the Heights, the breakout star of Scream, the breakout star of Scream 6. I'm like, okay, I keep breaking out. I guess I haven't broken through yet. It's such a subjective thing in the industry. And I think unless something is like a global phenomenon, people never stop considering you breaking out. I don't know. I do feel like every single thing that I've done, though, has opened doors for me. Like, I don't know. I think we talked about this the last time, but like I thought that my first lead in a soap was a huge breakout for me. And then like when I crossed over to the US and I got Vida, being like one of the leads of a prime time show on like Stars, I was like, I feel like this is a huge breakout. But then In the Heights was my first like big studio movie, and like that for some people is like my breakout. I don't even know. I'm not mad at it. I'm like, whatever you think is my breakout role, because everyone has different perspectives and everyone likes different roles that I've done. So whatever floats your boat.
Can you give me an example of a scene that you as an actor were having a tough time cracking, whether it was accessing your character's headspace, justifying a decision they make, and then tell me a little bit about how you overcame that and actually wound up nailing the scene?
It happens a lot. It actually happens a lot to me. And I had that happen just in the last set that I was on, where if something doesn't feel honest to me in the moment, I go into like a full body block. Like my body and my mind and my heart does not let me continue acting because I know that it will be phony. And it happened a lot to me in this last movie that I did. And thankfully I had a director that we had a great relationship coming in, a lot of trust. And I told her, I was like, this is probably one of the most difficult roles I've ever done. It's so different to anything I've ever done. And it's so different to me, who I am as Melissa, that I'm going to be, you know, like trying things out. And sometimes I'm going to need your guidance, but I'm going to need time to process. So sometimes she would like ask me for things and I'd be halfway through the scene trying to like go through a note that I was given and just stop and freeze. And I'd be, and I'd like, sometimes all I need is like a pause to like find it. And sometimes it takes longer. So sometimes she'd be like, are you okay? And I was like, I can't do it. I'll just be like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And she's like, you can, you're doing it. And I'm like, I can't do it. It doesn't feel right. And I'll just need a moment. But it's usually after those like little like blips of like panic that I have that like the real breakthrough comes. And like, that's when I feel the most satisfied with scenes, when I'm like, because I feel my whole body working through it and like trying to find the honesty in it. I don't like saying things, like saying a line and not meaning it. And sometimes, I don't know, like sometimes acting is like that. You have to kind of just do things that you're asked to do, but like I protect myself, I feel like. Because I've had in the past done things where I'm like, oh, that was a bad take. I'm sure they're not going to use it. And then they use it. So I think that's my defense mechanism of like just going into full body block of like, I'm not going to act if I don't feel like I'm being truthful. I'm not going to do it. And then I just need to take a breather and I need to talk it through. And sometimes it's like the director's like, what is it? And I'm like, I'm trying to do what you want me to do, but I'm trying to find the way that feels right for me to get there. And I just need a beat. And yeah, so that's been happening to me a lot lately.
I love that approach to it. I don't want to press you for information on that upcoming movie, but because you referenced the filmmaker on that, are you allowed to name the person?
Her name is Caroline Lindy, and this is going to be her feature debut, and she is a genius. A genius. I'm very glad. Oh my God, you are going to love her when you meet her.
We love in this industry to tell each other good job, but we don't say it to ourselves nearly enough. So of all the films and shows and other things you've made, is there any particular scene that you look back on and, you know, can say to yourself, like, damn, I am proud of what I did in that moment?
I do. I feel like there's a lot. Like, I don't congratulate myself in the moment, but looking back, I am proud of a lot of the things that I've done. Like off the top of my head specifically, just because it was like a Mount Everest to climb, like the club scene in the Heights was pretty big. I after those 2 days of shooting that, I was like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe like I actually managed to pull that off. And I probably won't ever be able to do that again, but now it's immortalized on film forever. So I'm happy about that.
That's an incredible set piece, but as you were teeing that up, I thought you were going to say the club, the lengthy dance in Carmen, which is also exceptional. So you kind of, like in a sense, you did it again, and you kind of upped it in a different sense.
Well, I was going to say also the desert dance in Carmen.
Oh my God,
was daunting because it was a oneer. You know, like in the Heights, we had all these different setups they could edit out of like. We shot it over 2 days, so they were going to pick the best out of everything, and I'm glad they did. But for Carmen, it was a oneer, and I was in the middle of, I think it was 5 or 6 of like the Sydney Dance Company best dancers in Australia. And I was like in the middle of them, and I was mortified, and I was like, how am I going to do this in a oneer? And I don't know, like I was touched by God in that moment because I blanked. I don't even know how I did what I did. And even Benjamin doesn't know how I did what I did because he came up to me afterwards and he was like, how did you do that? He was like, you were soaring, you were flying. How did you do that? I was like, I don't know. Thank you. But I don't know how I did that. There's something like really magical about acting. Whether it's on stage or on screen, I feel like sometimes you manage to disappear and like fully be in the moment. And those are the moments that we're always chasing as actors. Those are like the rare moments where we're like, I genuinely don't know what I did. And that's when you're fully living in it. It's hard. You can't do that all the time. We try to, but it's hard. But that was one of those moments too.
Those are the moments I chase to talk about and to celebrate. And you have many. And before we move into Scream, I will just tell our audience that Carmen is in theaters in April. So everyone will be able to see that really soon.
Yeah.
Okay, first for non-spoiler questions for Scream 6. When you first saw the script for the new movie and what Sam's evolution would be, what would you say was your biggest burning question for Matt Tyler and the team that, you had to sit with and talk through before hitting set?
So the script changed a lot from the first script that I got to the movie that we made. It was a I want to say basically completely different. And we had a few sit downs, like Matt and Tyler and I, and then with Jamie and Guy, because I really, really wanted to make sure that we were, that we explored Sam's like psyche more and we got to know her deeply, because that was the reason that I wanted to play Sam in the first place. Like the reason that I was attracted to her in Scream 5 was like, oh my God, there's so much potential here. Where is she going to go? And I wanted to make sure that in the 6th movie, we saw more layers to her. It wasn't just like the tough girl, the protective older sister that like has all these walls up. I was like, what happens when those walls break down? And we didn't get a chance to see that in the 5th one. So I was like, I want to make sure that she feels like a more real, well-rounded human. Like all these things, all these relationships and everything that happened to her in the 5th one, how are we going to explore that? And I think the thing about like Matt and Tyler being so great is that when I first spoke to them after reading the first draft, I was like, these are my concerns, and I really, really want to like, I want the audiences to get to know Sam more. I think it's important that the audiences know her more, because otherwise it's tough coming into a franchise in the 5th movie. It's tough, and like the fans are already in love with so many characters that you need to like give them a lot and open up a lot to them for them to like let you in. And I really wanted that. And they were 100% on board. And they also wanted that for all the characters. They wanted those quiet moments. They wanted the core 4 to have these like intimate beats of friendship and of like us getting a glimpse of like these 4 people that went through enormous trauma and how they're all dealing with it in their own way. So that having like a heart, because the 5th movie felt like, in a way, in the Scream franchise, the first 4 movies are incredible. And, Wes had his thing and his vision of Scream. And in the 5th one, that is the first one without him, we had the essence of Scream, but I also feel like there was a lot of heart. Like it was a very emotional movie, which is rare in Scream. And I think that that's beautiful. That's what attracts me to projects, the heart, the emotionality, because that's what I connect with personally. So I wanted to keep that going in the 6th movie. And I think that's what Guy and Jamie do so well. And they did. And I mean, I'm so happy with the movie that we shot.
I can't express how enthusiastic I am about this film to you and say congratulations enough. But again, congratulations. This is something else, and I'm so excited for everything that's to come for you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.